if you believe in it, it becomes a lot easier to do because you're willing to kind of go through the ups and downs and the challenges. But just like trying is half the battle. Getting started, they always say, is like much harder than finishing. And I think that's so true.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast, where we will be discussing the struggles and lessons learned along the journey of a seven-figure entrepreneur. It's my pleasure to welcome our guest today, Lucas Gould with Spender. Lucas, thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, happy to be here, John. Appreciate it.
We're excited to learn more about you and your company. And without further ado, let's just go ahead and dive right in. So, as a small business owner, as an entrepreneur, please share with us your story. Where did you start from? Where have you gotten to? Maybe share a few key lessons learned along the way. But ultimately, we just want to hear about your journey.
Yeah, happy to share. And there's a lot of different places to start. I think for a long time I'd always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I didn't exactly know what that meant or what specifically I would be doing, but always I think had an entrepreneurial spirit, trying different things. And I think it really just comes down to like problem solving, right, and finding problems that can be solved and solved through business. And so the first one of the first things I ever did was actually convince my family to open an Orange Leaf franchise. If anybody out there is familiar with Orange Leaf frozen yogurt. It wasn't successful, but it ultimately gave me my first shot at seeing what it took to run and open a business. And that was back when I was 15, 16 years old. And from there, went to college at a small school here in Ohio where I'm from, and essentially started taking a totally different route. I thought I wanted to be on Wall Street, be an investment banker, work in big finance, and that's what I did. I was a finance major and took a very, very corporate job, for the first 3 years of my career. And I think the biggest thing that did, frankly, was show me what I didn't want to do, which was be in a corporate company, be in finance. I just did not vibe at all with being in a corporate company. I think it was, extremely bureaucratic. It didn't really incentivize like free thinking and, challenging the status quo, and always felt like I guess somewhat of a nonconformer in the way of like doing things that, maybe most people find not popular. And so did that for about 3 years and learned a lot. Again, learned a lot about what I didn't want to do. Got some tangible skill sets in finance that have been useful in my career now. And I did that for about 3 years, and I quit that job and moved back home to Cincinnati, where I'm from, to start Spender, which is the current company I'm working on building. And the idea to start Spender really was from my own personal experiences and experiencing the problem that we are now solving with the Spender platform. And I think what I learned along the way was you can't really force being an entrepreneur. It's something that you should go try, but when it comes to ideas and the thing that you should do, I think it's hard to force. I think it's something that you really have to kind of experience these problems firsthand. And when you're experiencing these problems firsthand, it becomes very easy and more natural to figure out what to do to solve those problems. And so, if you ask my friends and family, I think they would tell you like I'm always coming up with ideas. Probably 8, if not 9 out of 10 are bad, but that 1 out of 10 will be good. And I think that's just what it takes, is like asking questions, challenging, again, the status quo and what's been done, and saying, hey, is there a different way, a better way, a way to solve this? And so many people will tell you no. Some people will tell you, well, if there was, it would be done already. And, my belief was like, I don't care if others have tried it, if they've done it, if I think I can do it better, I really have nothing to lose for going to trying it. And so, that's what it was for Spender, right? It was seeing a problem. That problem is payments in the legal cannabis industry and how people, find their products, pay for their products, get rewarded for their products. And I'd experienced firsthand the challenge of doing that, and really believed in normalizing the cannabis plant, normalizing the legal cannabis industry. And we created the first of its kind, platform that allows you to pay for your cannabis and earn rewards for your cannabis, which nobody had ever done before. And again, the number of people, when I was like, hey, I have this idea, I think I'm going to try this. They're like, oh, well, it's cool, but like, are you sure it hasn't been done already? Like, I'm sure it would have been done. It's a good idea. And my belief was like, some people have tried in different ways that we think we have unique twists, and let's just go try it our way. And again, I think so many people, kind of get turned off because they just assume that, hey, there's, 7 billion people on this planet. And, there's, if problems were still needing to be solved, then they would be solved already. And I just don't believe that, I think each one of us has an opportunity to make a difference, and it just takes people trying to solve these problems. And so that's what we did with Spender. We launched a company about 2.5 years ago to solve, those payment problems in the cannabis industry. And what we learned was that this problem had not been met, and that people were hungry for it to be solved. And when we launched this and we got this into people's hands, the amount of support and excitement was really overwhelming. I mean, people, were coming to us saying, "Hey, we really appreciate what you did, because before this, we had really no other way for paying for our cannabis besides cash, and we felt unsafe, and it was clunky, and it was a bad experience, and it was inconvenient, and this is the first platform that feels like it was built for us, and it's really making it's making our experience a lot better." And I think that was somewhat exasperated in a positive way, in the fact that we were, based in Ohio and launched in Ohio, which was a medical marijuana market. And so this was people's medicine. We were helping people afford and find and pay for their medicine in just a much more normal, better way. And so, again, it showed us that, one, like, if you believe in it, it becomes a lot easier to do, because you're willing to kind of go through the ups and downs and the challenges. But just like trying is half the battle. Getting started, they always say, is like much harder than finishing. And I think that's so true in startups and in being an entrepreneur, is just getting started. Again, there's gonna be so many reasons why you shouldn't get started, whether it's because, you think it's too risky, you don't have the money, you're already, doing a job that is paying you well, whether you think you can't do it or somebody else is doing it. It's like, there's so little to lose in just trying. And that's, I guess, the point that I want to get out of this for people, is like, just try. I really believe anybody has the opportunity to be successful and to do something that can help others. But so many people will default to just, again, saying no, or saying, "Hey, it's not worth it," or saying, "Hey, somebody else is doing it." And so, again, like, our experience has been like finding something that needed to be solved, figuring out a unique way to solve it, and then doing everything it took to, like, prove that it did solve it. And that's what we did really early on with Spender. I think, and then from that point on, right, I was like launching the company. I was 20, 26 at the time, had never done this before. I had no idea what I knew, or I think even, more dangerously, what I didn't know.
Right.
And just had to go out and start talking to people. And I think that's the other part of the journey that a lot of people, I think, don't necessarily consider, is like, you're never going to know what you don't know, and you're not going to know really anything when it pertains to building a business for the first time. So, like, go find people, go meet people, go network with people, like, be willing to put yourself out there and connect with people who can help you along your journey. Nobody can do it alone. Even if you are a solo founder, I'm a solo founder. I don't have any co-founders. And I think, like, what I had to do to fill those gaps of knowledge was, like, go out and intentionally go find those people, right? Whether they're advisors, investors, team members now, people who I can just call to talk to. Like, there's a wealth of experience and knowledge out there, and, like, they're trying to share it back. But I really think it's up to the people who need that knowledge to go find them, right? It's like, we have to go call these people, say, "Hey, I'm thinking about this. Hey, I have this problem. Can you help me?" And so that was kind of like phase 2 in the journey. It was like, part 1 was just like starting. And then part 2 was like, okay, well, we don't know anything. How do we go figure out what we need to do?
Right.
Go connect and meet people. And then as we did that, it was just like, okay, we got to just block and tackle, which is execution. We know we have an idea. We think this market is a big market. We think this problem is solving, real problems that people have. And we think that we can do it in a way where we can make money. Everybody involved can make money and have a better outcome than they have now. And then it's really just, again, just executing, right? Blocking and tackling, doing the little things, showing up every day, and just, like, really caring about customers. And I think, doing the hard things that people don't default to, right? It's an example that I use is, in our business, we spend a lot of time, like, talking to customers, and sometimes we do that just from our offices, but other times, like, we actually go in store and we go into these businesses that use our platform, and we actually talk to their customers, and we say, "Okay, give us your feedback, good feedback, bad feedback. What can we do to make it better? What do you like about Spender? What do you not like about Spender?" And when you're doing that across 5 states, across, hundreds of businesses that use your product, it can be very time consuming. And, like, you could be in your car driving 16 hours every single day just to go into these businesses. But to us, like, it's worth it. And that's, like, those are, like, the hard wins that you have to do. You just, like, have to get your hands dirty to really understand what's working, what's not working. And that, again, is how you, like, keep moving along that journey. So that's, like, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 was just getting it out there and proving to people that again, we knew what we were doing, that we could solve their problems. And now we're kind of moving on to phase 4, which is, okay, we've done that. Now we have to get it out nationally, right? We've proven this concept into some, on a more, like, localized basis, across places like Ohio and Michigan. People use our product in California and Arizona and New York. And now we want the whole country to see what Spender can do for people and how it's helping their businesses, how it's helping the consumer experience. And now that's a whole nother part of the journey, which is raising money and hiring a team and scaling your processes and figuring out how to keep brand quality while you're now using your brand across 20 places. And so
Right.
I think there's just like a lot of different steps along the way, but the one I think commonality across them is like being really honest and one, like what you know and what you don't know, but two, like where your skill sets are, and as like a team collectively, like where are the gaps, and not being afraid to admit that there are gaps, and when you found those gaps, putting the plan together to then go fill them and then executing onto it. And I think like each step in that journey has has those types of challenges, and like we found like that's how you solve them, right? It's just like being very honest and open with each other around like what we know, what we don't know, and then figuring out ways to go solve them, and then just going and doing it. And we have like our team is very much, hey, we'll do what it takes. We say that so often because we still like we don't know, half the time we have no idea what we're doing, but again, we believe in what we're doing. We've seen great value and support from our customers, and they believe in us, and so we're going to do everything we can every day to figure it out and to get there. And so, really the final piece that I'd say on my journey, at least specifically, is like the importance of like self-belief, because so often people, will like tell you things or will kind of doubt you on their own, whether directly or indirectly. And the road is very challenging and the statistics are against you, right? It's like,
Right.
and this is like an entrepreneur podcast, but like the fact is like 9 out of 10 startups fail. So that,
Yeah.
the odds are against you. And I think you have to know that going into it, and you have to be like crazy enough to be like, I'm gonna still win regardless. Right. And I think that's, if you don't have that in you, it's going to be so hard to succeed. And that's why it just takes belief, and like belief not only in yourself, but like what it is that you're doing, right? Like the problem you're solving, the product that you've built to solve that problem. If you don't really care about it, it's going to be so easy to just like hang up your shoes one day and be like, you know what, I tried it, but I'm done. And so we like, I didn't, this is not my, like my saying, but it's like, it starts with why. Like it really does, just like starting with like, why are we here in the first place? And I didn't start Spender to make money and, get extremely wealthy. I started Spender to like solve a real problem that affected me, and a problem that I've seen it affect other people, and when solved, like really improves their way of life. And so if you then can find a way to like monetize that and make money, then everybody wins, right? But it really again starts with like doing it for a much bigger reason than just money, um, at least in my opinion. And so again, like figuring out just like how to stay persistent, how to stay determined, how to stay passionate, and just wake up every day and like go after it as best you can. So that's essentially what we've done over the last 2.5 years, is we've built a small team of about 8 people now, all people who frankly could be getting paid more money at another company and and probably working less, but work here and work hard and work long, because they also believe in what we're doing and believe in the customers that we're helping. And that's what you want. You really want a collective unit that feels that way. And so we're now at that next stage of like, okay, how do we now bring this to from 60,000 people to 600,000 people to 6 million people, right? It's like
Right.
and that will be equally as hard, if not harder, than all the previous steps, right? But for me personally, it's a lot more about the journey. I also say all the time to people that like, you really can't guarantee an outcome. Like again, the data would tell you that you're bound to fail, and that's a fact. And so what I tell team members when they join, even what I tell investors sometimes is like, cannot guarantee you like that will be successful in a monetary way, but what I can guarantee you is like you'll get more experience, more exposure, more responsibility, more purpose doing this than I think you would anywhere else. And that's what I've personally found working at Spender, starting Spender compared to JP Morgan. And I love JP Morgan, great company, but like the level of purpose that you can get at a company that is new and starting up, I think is much greater than at big corporate companies. And that's what I tell people. It's like, again, we have no idea if we'll be successful. We think we will be. We're crazy enough to believe that we will defy the odds and be successful, but don't come into this because you want some big monetary gain at the end of the 3 to 5 year experience. Like do this because like you want to have purpose in your life. You believe in what we're doing. Like you want to do something big and great. And like that journey is what will matter, right? Like that's ultimately what will matter, not the outcome, but what you learn along the way. So, really excited to be doing what I'm doing, but it's a lot. So you got to love it because it gets crazy.
Yep, yep. No, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your story, Lucas. Fantastic. I love your intentionality around saying, hey, starting off with, hey, I'm going to go solve this problem. And I'm going to not listen to any of the individuals that are telling me, hey, it's possible somebody else already did. Nope. I'm going to go and I'm going to see, hey, I see this problem.
Yep.
Obviously, it's not solved because I'm dealing with it personally. I
Yep.
know that there's other people dealing with it. So I'm going to go and I'm going to solve it. And I realize up front, say, I love your intentionality about this is I realized that, hey, my first try is probably not going to be successful. And you know what? Maybe not
Exactly.
the third, fourth, fifth, or sixth try either, right? It reminded me of Thomas Edison with the light bulb, right?
Oh yeah.
When asked
99
about the light bulb, they'd say, "Man, you failed so many times." He said, "No, I didn't fail. I
times.
learned 100 ways not to make a light bulb."
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And
I love that stuff. I listen to all that. I love it. It's so true, though. It really
yeah,
is so true.
yeah, and then you just moved straight on, and you just kept going one step at a time. And I love how you are setting yourself up in these phases, saying, "Hey, well, phase one, I just have to start." And then what was the next phase? Well, then we had to get out and prove it. And then we had to start building it. And then I needed to bring it on a team. And then we needed to go back and make sure that we're putting in the effort and the time and the energy. Um, and then the last things that you brought up, I hope everybody that's listening to the show today paid attention to that. Is he said, you know what? What has made the difference is that we have a purpose, and we're all drawn together. And in our small team of, what did you say, like 8 of you right
8
now?
people right now. Yeah.
Yeah, you're so drawn to this purpose that now it's more than just showing up and getting a paycheck. It's not coming in, punching in, and then at the end of the day punching out. It's, hey, I'm coming because I'm bought in on this why we're doing what we're doing. And that just makes such a huge difference in business. Here at Elite, we teach something very similar. We say, hey, when you start off, you need to have a clear vision. And when we think of vision, we think of it as a three-part thing. We say, hey, vision is purpose. That's your why you get out of bed each morning, why you do what you do. And that's this grandiose, hey, this is 100-year out thing. I'm not ever actually going to accomplish it, but I'm going to be working towards it every single day. And then you have your values. That's who you are and how you show up each and every day, right? And then the last thing is, then you have a mission. And a mission is a destination you're actually going to reach. It's very clear. You say, hey, in the next 3, 4, 5 years, we're going to go after, we're going to accomplish this thing. And when you tie all that together, this purpose, these core values as a team, and then this very purpose driven mission of, hey, we're going to go after and we're going to reach this destination together, it just changes everything.
Totally. It
Makes such a
does.
huge impact.
Well, and you got to have it because again, it just never it's never going to be easy. It shouldn't be easy. Another saying that's not mine that I probably heard in the same videos that talk about the Thomas Edison thing is like if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. And like
Yep.
that's just the truth, right? Is like you just gotta understand that, and you just have to like you also have to just like believe that you are special in a way. If that makes sense. It's like um, and I think it's those people who feel that way, like go out and try these things, right? Like you have to believe that like you can be the difference maker, and
Yeah.
that's not like that doesn't mean that you have to be like overconfident, boastful about it. Just like you have to again have like a very deep belief in yourself, and that like you can go out there and make a difference, right? Because again, if you just like maintain average and status quo, then everything is just like, oh well, somebody else is doing it, right? Or somebody else will do it. And like, oh, I can't do it. It's like, well, why can't you do it? I tell my friends all the time, like, somebody has an idea. I'm like, you should just go do it. And they're like, well, like, how could I do it? It's like, I don't know, but like, you could just go do it. Just go try to do it. And you'll learn very quickly if you can or you can't, right? But again, another saying, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, and like that is true in everything. And so just go out there and try to make it happen. And it's just super, super, super important. So big believer in getting started, but don't just get started just to start. I would say, which is also like sometimes conflicting. Like I want people to just like go try things, but at the same time, it's like go figure out what you're passionate about. And like I think the best way to get there is through curiosity. Like
Yeah.
big believer in curiosity, asking questions. I probably ask too many questions at times, but it's like how I know if I like something or don't like something. Like if I'm naturally drawn to something and wanting to learn more about it, I think it's really easy to see that because I'll just be asking questions, and then from there you start to understand, well, what are those problems that they may be facing, and what can we
Exactly.
then do to solve those problems. So that's really it to me, is like again, like just believing in yourself, being curious, and then from there it's just like knowing that, hey, like if nobody solved this, like I think I can, and go do it.
Yeah, no, love that. And you reminded me, my mom was a junior high school math teacher for 25 years. And she had across the top of her chalkboard at the front of the room this big banner that said, "The only stupid question is the one not asked."
Yeah, I love
Because
it.
too often we hold ourselves back and we're like, I'm not going to ask that question. Because I love how you're saying, yes, we need to ask questions. And everybody who's listening, I hope you paid attention to that, because you're 100% correct, Lucas. I agree with you. You have to ask questions. You have to get curious. And too often we're our own worst enemy, and we say, "Oh yeah, but what if that's not the right question?" Well, how are you
Yeah,
gonna know if it's the right question unless you ask it,
yeah, you
right?
never will. Yep, you never will. It's
No,
so
love.
true. And so much of misunderstanding is really from a lack of understanding, right? Is like I think a good way to think about it. So like it's and that's true not just in business, but like in anything in life, right? Like somebody who may do things differently than you, and easy to want to judge those people. It's like um, we have no idea what somebody else is going through, or what they're thinking about, or why they're doing the things they're doing. And so like ask, like if it's
Yeah,
concerning you, or if it's like ask, and so often I think people like want to be asked, like um, and I even see it for myself. I love talking about Spender, right? But I also don't like go out of my way to just like force it onto you. I'm not going to be like, hey, let me tell you all about Spender. Like, say for 45 minutes, let me tell you. But the minute somebody's like, hey, tell me about Spender, and just starts asking me questions, like I'll talk forever. Like I love
right.
talking about it. And that's like, there's so many people out there who feel that same way. And so just again, getting out there and asking those questions, it goes a long way. It really
Yeah,
does.
absolutely. Love that. So great. All right. Well, we're going to switch gears just a little bit, Lucas. As you continue to strive to be the leader that you want to be, as you mentioned to everybody, you're you're a sole proprietor. You don't have a co-founder. You're the only founder. So as you're continuing to strive to be the leader that you want to be, and you're growing and developing your team, and as you start to see this growth that you're experiencing, right, you want to take this national. So you're going to have to increase your team as you continue to get bigger and bigger. What's something that you're dealing with real time that we can have a conversation about?
I mean, there's a lot of things.
There always is, right?
Yeah.
Welcome to
Um,
small business.
yeah, there always is. No, I think what a lot of it comes, it can tie back to a similar theme. Um, and I think in our world, like at the stage where we're at, where we are like now starting to expand and grow and add team members who again like haven't been here forever, like maybe don't know us as well as the people who are here now. It's like how do you continue to instill um, inspiration, motivation? How do it's really easy for me to say to the third hire, hey, if you want money, like you should go elsewhere. I'm never going to pay you as much as I wish I could. That's just not where we're at. One day I hope that changes, but now I won't. And if you want that, I understand and no worries, go find that. But if you don't care about that as much as like, again, finding that purpose and like trying to do something that really matters and can make a difference, like come join this. And that's really easy when it's the third employee, fourth employee, fifth employee. But when we start to think about, hey, going from 8 employees to maybe 25 employees to 60 employees to 100 employees, like how do you make sure that you can continue to like instill that same level of passion and inspiration and motivation? And how do you create a culture where people will just they will initiate like waking up early every day, going to bed later every day, like wanting to put time in on the weekends. Not again, I believe in work-life balance. I call it all life balance, and that like work is part of life, and you have to
Right.
just figure out how much of your life do you want to spend working. And for some it's more, for some it's less, no right or wrong, but like we want to find people who want this to be a big part of their life, right? Like building a company that we think is going to be hugely valuable, like does take an immense amount of time and
Yeah.
dedication and thought and commitment. And you frankly have to make sacrifices. And I, anybody who doesn't want that, that's okay. But we want to find people who do want that. And so how do you find those people? And then how do I think like cultivate a culture to where that is just very natural, right? Where again, you have that. And you can look to a lot of like the great success stories of other companies like Apple, Google had this, Uber, etc. Like they all figured out how to build like really, really passionate team members who like got the company logo like tatted on their back because like they loved it so much.
Right.
Not that we think people should do that, but like again, how do you cultivate that culture, right? And do it
Yeah.
as you get deeper. So like that's something that is constantly on my mind right now of like worrying about hiring somebody who will not be that way and creating friction. And also just being like very intentional when it comes to culture building.
No, I love that you bring that up because so many people are in the same boat. And you said it perfectly. When you get to that point, you've built your small team, you've gotten yourself where you've proven out your business model, you've made it so it's repeatable and sustainable, and you're ready for that growth trajectory. Yeah, you that's terrifying because yeah, you're going to go from 8 people, 25 people, 50 people, 150 people, right? As you continue to grow and expand. So one way that we help people walk through that and teach that here at Elite is we talk about the three things that every leader is responsible for. So we call it the Elite leadership model. And as a leader, you have 3 jobs: set the vision, build the team, and deliver results. Now, when we talk about the vision, again, like I just spoke, we see vision as those 3 things: that purpose, those values, and that mission. And it really is central in order for you to continue to see the growth that you want, to get real clear on establishing and saying, hey, this is our purpose, these are our core values, and this is our mission that we're going to go after and accomplish. And then what you do is you make yourself, as you continue to bring on more employees and you're bringing on these new hires, is you set yourself up for success by doing what we call a culture-fied job description, and making sure that you're taking all of that, the information that you took the time and effort to create, your vision, and you're incorporating that into this process. And what that does is it creates this positive magnet to attract like-minded individuals and detract people who are like, yeah, no, that's not me, that's not my cup of tea. So what we coach and what we teach is right in your job description and right in your interview process. You're talking about your vision, you're talking about your purpose. This is our purpose, this is why we're excited. Everybody here at Spender, we're excited about this thing. So establishing what that purpose is and then saying, okay, and we have these core values. Now, most of the time we don't teach people to, tell about your core values, right? Specifically, but what you do is you do a value screening where you come up with questions that you ask them, where their response you're going to be able to clearly identify whether or not they're fitting into your core values, right? As they're talking, it's really easy to tell if somebody's just trying to give you the right answer or the wrong answer when you're looking for a specific core value, because
Totally.
core values just show up in who we are and how we respond to each and every situation, right? So if they're bought into that purpose and they can, explain and share with you how that seems like it's something that's, yeah, that would help get me out of bed in the morning, that would drive me to want to perform at work, and then you find out that they are indeed a core values fit, man, it's so powerful. And then
Totally.
as the leader, it's your job to be the gatekeeper. You don't let anybody into your company that's not a core values fit. So there's 2 things you're looking for when you're looking for a new hire. You're looking for skill set. Hey, they've got to be able to accomplish the task needed in this particular role that I'm hiring, but they've got to be a core values fit.
Yeah.
Because as you continue to grow and develop, if everybody that you let in that door is a core values fit, then that's how you're going to be able to maintain that culture, right?
Totally.
And then it's going to be able to start with you. And as a leader, you're setting the vision, you're building the team, you're delivering results. And then the next layer down, your executive team that you'll have eventually as you're building and developing them, they're going to be doing the same thing. And then it just cascades down from the top down of this just pressing idea constantly of, hey, I'm talking about our purpose and everything that I do. I'm bringing up our core values, and we're all engaged on reaching our destination, our mission. And we're using that mission as a second level or a next level filter for all decision making. any decision that we make in the company, is it, number one, in line with our purpose? Can we continue to live these same core values if we say yes to this thing? And is saying yes to this going to help us move towards our mission? Because if it is, then yes, 100% we're going to go after this thing. But if you can't say yes to any of those things, all three of those, then you're gonna take a step back and you say, hey, is this really the direction we want to go? Do we really want to do this thing? So if you're using that as a next level filter, man, now decision making across the company works really well too. Because everybody, you have this clarity and this alignment with everybody in the organization, starting from the top down,
Totally.
of hey, we have this purpose, we have this vision, it's this purpose. We know who we are and how we show up, and we're going to go after and we're going to reach this destination. Man, that's powerful.
Well,
And that's how you set yourself up for success as you start to grow, is because now, man, Lucas, you're the gatekeeper. Nobody comes into your company that's not a core values fit. Go ahead.
no, I was going to just add. I mean, I agree because I think that like the other concern that's easy to have is around like when you're now like a layer removed from that decision making process or even that hiring process, right? It's like you have to have a lot of trust that the person who is the
Yeah.
one making that decision has the same value, same values, the same belief, the same purpose again as you do. And that will just like each layer down the chain, it's just going to become more and more important. And if you have like one broken part, it's like everything
Yep.
gets screwed up.
Yo, no, absolutely. And that's why when you start, right now is actually the perfect time for you in your organization when you're a smaller team to say, okay, now we're gonna sit down, we're gonna take the time needed, and we're gonna clearly define what our purpose is, what our core values are as a team, right? Understanding that some of us individually are going to have core values that are different than each other, and that's fine. That's awesome, right? We like diversity. That's great. That's how we're going to think outside the box. That's how we're going to come up with different solutions to problems, right? Collectively, that's okay. But together, we're going to agree that these 5 or 6 core values we all share. And we agree that here at work, these trump. These values are what we're going to display each and every time we show up to each and every situation that we find ourselves in,
Mm.
right? And then clearly define what that mission is, that thing you're going to go and accomplish. Oh man, so powerful. And it sets you up for success of, okay, now we know that in the next 3, 4, or 5 years, this is where we're going to go. Okay, now we're going to go and we're going to create an org chart and write in all the positions that we have currently today. Then we're going to look at that mission and we're going to say, okay, what does reality look like once we arrive? And we're going to create a future org chart and we're going to write in all the positions needed at that point when we arrive at that destination. Then what you're going to do is then you're going to go and you're going to start putting people's names in. Okay, today, Lucas does this role and this role and this role and this role and this role, right? Because in small companies, we wear many hats, right? You're going to go through your team. You're going to put them in all this. Now you have a roadmap for success of how you can intentionally hire moving forward, and you're gonna intentionally fill in that future org chart. So now you know not only what reality is going to look like once you reach your destination, but now you have this roadmap of, okay, when do I need to bring in the next hire and who? And you can decide and be intentional about it instead of being reactive, which so often happens. So often we find ourselves in this reactive state where we're just like, you know what, I just got to throw bodies at this problem. I grew too fast. Now I need 20 people. No, let's be intentional about it and let's say, hey, this is the path for us to reach our destination, and these are the people we need to bring in, and at what point do we need to bring them in at? And you can plan this roadmap so that you can be intentional about it, and then you can be slow to hire to ensure that nobody's getting into your company that's not a core values fit, and then quick to fire. So then you're quickly identifying, are you core values fit or you're not? Because if you're not, I'm going to help you find a place where you are, because it has to be a win-win. It has to be a win for you and it has to be a win for me. And if it's not, there's going to be friction. And we can't grow and continue to see the success that we want as a company if we have that friction. So we need to find a way to make it a win-win.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, Yeah, it's something that we've not, I think that's the other challenge of like early stage startups is like spending the time to take a step back and define those things, versus like getting started. And so much I think of what you have to do early on is just like get started, as I said, and just keep it going. And you all of a sudden like wake up one day and you're like, oh wow, like look how far we've come. But hey, we actually like never even talked about what our values were and like what our like we all know what the mission is, right? But like we never actually like articulated it and defined it and put it on a piece of paper. And so now again, like as we start making decisions, as we start making especially hiring decisions, it's so easy for like each person to kind of have their own perspective of like specifically what it is, right?
Yep.
Because again, we never defined it, we never put it on a piece of paper. And so that's actually something that we're in the process of working on, not just from a value and mission and vision standpoint, but just like any like process, any
Oh yeah,
SOP, any
absolutely.
procedure. It's like, so if you ask anybody on our team, it's like, hey, do you know how to do this? We're like, yes. I'm like, okay, great. Do you have it written down? No. And it's like that works because they're doing it and they're the ones coming up with it and they're the ones doing it. So like, yeah, sure, in theory, you just have to have it in your head. But what you learn is like, well, how does the next person learn, right? Like, what happens when we have to hire that person? What happens if we say hit, maybe this is too drastic, like get hit by a bus tomorrow. We have no
Yep.
idea if we get hit by a bus tomorrow, and like our whole business can't just like come to a stop because you didn't write down the procedure. It's like I understand why you didn't, but again, how do you just like have that start happening when you're trying to move so quickly? And I totally understand why it happens. Again, because there's a thousand things going on and you have to prioritize. And
Yep.
I say like working in the business versus working on the business, and working in the business is like doing the work, executing every day, right? And working on the business, like stepping back, right? Being a strategic thinker, coming up with the plans and the roadmap to like actually get to where we want to get to,
Yep.
doing the things like mission statement, vision statement, value creation, like all of that. And I think it's not something we've done a great job at, but something that like we've at least identified as something that needs to be done. So,
Yeah, and understanding that both have to exist at the same time,
yep,
right? You've created this machine and it's gotten you to where you're at, and that machine has to keep running, right? Your daily operational um,
you can't stop.
can't stop. No, it
Yeah,
has to keep going. But you also have to think about your long-term strategic. You have to plan for the future so that you continue to see the growth that you want, and they have to coexist. And it's like, okay, well, I need 20 more hours in the day. I don't have enough time. I'm spread too thin, right? And it's just all about, like you said, it's all about prioritizing and being intentional about saying, okay, I'm going to set aside time specific for this thing. But until we take the time to define what it is we're doing and create ourselves a roadmap to get there, it's really difficult to do that.
totally. Well, that's what I'm curious to get your opinion on this then, because I think that's a challenge you've run into, which is like the machine is going and it's working, but it also right now requires us to be, let's say, hands on, right?
Yeah.
And with such a limited team, like we have to be hands on. And so if their full day and full week is already occupied by being hands on, how do they take the time, um, to work on the business, right? And like I've gotten feedback from our team that's like, look, like I either need to do that or I need to do that. And I'm like, well, you just need to do both. And I think like, and that can, I can appear as like, like expecting unrealistic things.
Right.
And my view is like, well, we're an early stage startup. Like you know what you were getting into, right? Like this wasn't like a surprise that we have very few people on the team and we just like have to do both. And so like, how do you suss that out either in the hiring process, but even after the fact, like, these are people who've been with us for years and now it's like, okay guys, now we also need to do this part. And like your job hasn't gotten any easier, your job hasn't become any like less time intensive, it's the same if not more. And now there's this other piece. Like how do you get somebody to like understand and or like want to do that, right? Because it does, like, maybe that's waking up early on a Saturday or on a Sunday, or it's hey going home at 5, eating dinner, and then getting back on at 8 for a couple hours, so like when you actually have time to think, like, how, what I mean? I think for
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
people it's very natural.
No, no, I totally get that. And it's this piece of saying, look, we have to be intentional about where we're headed. If we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to get the same results. And we don't want to get the same results because we want to continue to grow and develop. And so we need to plan for the future now. And if we don't, then we're going to be just kicking ourselves because we're going to be doing the same thing over and over again. And we're going to be expecting different results and we're not going to get them because what got us here isn't going to get us there. And we have this place, this destination that we want to reach. So in order to do that, we have to do this work. So then what we have to do is we have to be real clear and say, look, I have to be super intentional about what I'm doing today. And I have to get to a point where I can say, okay, I'm going to choose 1 hour today that I'm going to work on this other thing, which means one of these other things is not going to get my full attention today. And I have to get to a point where I'm okay with that because we all only have so much bandwidth.
Totally.
And yes, I agree with you. And every small business is in the same boat where you get to a point where you're like, well, I can only do one or the other. Well, no, both have to get done.
Yeah.
Well, how do you do both? Just both get done, but just not at 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And we have to be able to be okay with that. And it's about getting really clear of saying, okay, what thing can I allow to be done at like 60 or
Totally.
70% today to allow me the time to spend on this other thing and give it, 20 or 30% of my time. Right. And
100%.
yeah, and it's hard. It is. It's really hard. And to get the team buy-in, it's like, guys, by us creating this vision, this is going to allow this clarity and alignment so that all of us are working towards the same thing and we're going to see movement. Because right now, if we're not real clear on where it is that we're going, all of us could be going a million different directions, working really hard, getting a lot done. And then we look at the grand scheme and we're really not moving in any
Yeah.
direction. We're
Yep.
stagnant. We're all working our tail ends off, but nothing's getting accomplished.
Yeah.
So that's how you get the buy-in is you just let them see, look, we need to create this vision in order for us to continue to move forward.
Yeah.
So the way we look at it here at Lead is we have vision up at the top, and then we have this mountain. Down one side, that's all your operational, right? That's the stuff that has to happen day in, day out. That's what got us here. On the other side of the mountain, that's your long-term strategic. That's the work you have to do in order to continue to see the movement forward that you want to see. Across the bottom is how you balance everything. And we call that our meeting rhythms. And these meeting rhythms are set up in such a way that sometimes operations are going to take the lead. They're just going to have to. And other times, we're going to let operations slip a little bit so that strategic can take the lead. And that's okay. And it's about really just clearly defining, okay, I'm going to take time to work on this during this hour of this day. So having weekly team meetings to talk about operations, to make sure that it's working, having daily, quick team huddles. Hey, where are we at on this? We make sure we're doing this, right? Ensuring that's happening. But then also making sure that, every 2 weeks and once a month, we're talking about strategic stuff. So it's getting real clear at what meetings are we having. And we're not just having meetings to have meetings, but what is the outcome or the desired outcome that we want in each of these meetings, and then clearly defining it ahead of time, and then doing what we call a brain dump at the beginning of each meeting, and then creating yourself what's called a parking lot. And you say, okay, at the beginning of this meeting, everybody, everything you're thinking about right now that's on your head, start writing down. We're going to put that in a parking lot. Okay? Now, as we go through this meeting right now, if something in that parking lot is directly ties into what we need to accomplish in this meeting, we're going to grab it and we're going to talk about it. But if we get through the whole meeting and there's a bunch of stuff still in that parking lot, great. Those are all really important, good things we need to discuss at a different place and time. And we need to
It's
be
really just around
intentional.
prioritizing.
Yeah,
Really
we need to be intentional about that, right?
Yep. Totally.
And so that's how you balance. That's how you create your balance. And you talk about the work-life balance. And in my opinion, work-life balance is understanding that sometimes work is going to win out and sometimes home's going to win out. Right?
Yeah. 100%.
It's not a 50-50 split.
It's
not the way it works.
And it shouldn't be, right? Because again, like there's times where one needs to be more than the other. No, I totally agree, and I think that's the biggest thing I've reflected on is like the importance of like doing as early as you can, like defining some of like the key goals, the key outcomes that you're shooting for, mission, vision, values, right? Like who do you want to be as a company? Who are the people that we want here? And like not waiting to do that until like, oh, you think it's needed, because like once it's needed, it's already too late, frankly, right? Like you have to do it, before it's needed. And again, I think that's, one of the biggest lessons I learned is like early on, I would just say like, hey, like our goal is to just be like as big as we can be, and like I don't know, like, but we just need to be as big as we can be. And like that's cool to say, but it's not tangible, and so
Yeah.
nobody can actually like strive towards it, right? Versus like saying, hey, look, we want to be as big as we can be, and like we'll know that we're there when we've done X, right? And like even if X is maybe like slightly too attainable or slightly less attainable, but just like having X defined so that everybody can like see it every day and say, okay, look at this progress that we've made along the way,
Yeah.
being able to like celebrate those little wins. And then, every, month, quarter, year, you're just like continuing to like reevaluate, okay, maybe X now is a little bit higher and higher and higher. And that's why, again, like just a big believer in the journey, generally speaking, right? Because again, like you never know what the outcome is going to be. And so like, what is the finish line? Is the finish line when I sell the business for X, or when I sell it for Y, or what if I never sell it, right? Is
Right.
that not successful then? Like it's so hard to upfront like define the outcome versus saying like, here's what I want to get out of the journey. And as long as I get out of the journey what I wanted, then it was successful. Win, lose, tie, right? Sold, not sold, bankrupt, not bankrupt. Like at the end of the day, like you can't, like so much of that is luck and external factors that are totally outside of your control. I think what you get out of it is like totally within your control, and like that's what I
Yeah.
always try to like stress to people is like just like go into it knowing that, and just like control the controllables and do what you can to get the most out of this, right? And if you do that, then it's successful, whatever way that it actually goes. So,
Love
now I
it.
agree, and it's super helpful to understand because again, we're right at that stage where we're getting bigger and it's more work for everybody, and we all just have to figure out how to get it done, how to do both,
Yep.
right? We can't stop. So
Yep, absolutely. Well, Lucas, it's just been a pure delight talking with you and learning more about
appreciate it.
you and your journey today. Thank you so much. For those of you who are listening in and want to know more about Spender or Lucas and what he's trying to accomplish, Lucas, what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
Yeah, I mean, anybody can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Like I said, I'm a big believer in connecting. I hit up people every day that I've never met and say, hey, can I talk to you? And I would encourage everybody to do the same, and feel free to do it with me. I should respond to everybody and do my best to do that. When it comes to Spender, check us out. Website www.spender.com, SPENDR, to learn more about the platform, how we're helping both consumers and businesses. We're also on LinkedIn. And always, like I said, always happy to talk about Spender. Love talking about it. So
Awesome.
appreciate the time, John. It was good talking with you. And, thanks again.
You bet. And for those of you who are listening on, if you heard something today that you're like, "Ooh, yeah, I need to do that thing," take action. You hear me say this all the time. It's not until we take action that we start to see results. Whether those results are what we thought they would be or something different doesn't matter. We've got to take action because that's the only way we're going to know. So take action on that. And if you heard something today that you're like, you know what, I have a friend or a colleague or somebody else that could really benefit from this, please share this episode with them. Let's try to spread as much value to as many people as we possibly can. This has just been a great opportunity to learn about Lucas and Spender today. For all of you listening, thank you. We appreciate you. And that concludes another episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, guys.